Hello everyone. So today we are going to read about the electron transport chain. So the electron transport chain has the series of components. So there are mainly 5 components in the electron transport chain. So we call it as complex 1, complex 2, complex 3, complex 4 and complex 5. The complex 1 we called it as NADH COQ reductase, whereas the complex 2 we call it as succinate COQ reductase, and the complex 3 COQ cytochrome C reductase, and the complex 4 the cytochrome oxidase, and the last component is complex 5 the ATP synthesis. So the ultimate ATP synthesis occurs in the complex 5. So what happens in the complex 1 is there is transportation of the NADH electron, and in the complex 2 there is the transportation of FADH2 electron. The complex 3 helps to transport those NADH and FADH2 electrons, and the complex 4 is required for the formation of the water. So during each of their reaction, when each of the transportation of the electron, there is the release of one hydrogen ion in the complex 1, complex 3 and complex 4, and ultimately those hydrogen ion enters the ATP synthesis and the formation of the ATP take place. So by the ADP plus phosphate ion, so ATP formation take place in the ATP synthesis through the complex 4. So what happens is that the NADH electrons from the glycolysis enter the mitochondria from the malate aspartate or glycerol 3-phosphate shuttle. The FADH2 electrons are transferred to the complex 2 at the lower energy level than the NADH. So the passage of electron results in the formation of the protein gradient that coupled to the oxidative phosphorylation drives the production of the ATP in the ATP synthase. So what happens is that the one NADH produces 2.5 ATP, whereas the one FADH2 produces 1.5 ATP. So now we are going to read about electron transport inhibitor, ATP synthase inhibitor and uncoupling agent. So the electron transport inhibitors, they directly inhibit the electron transport, causing the decrease in proton gradient and block the ATP synthesis. The electron transport inhibitor are rotein, antimycin, azide, cyanide and carbon dioxide. The rotenone is inhibitor of the complex 1, and the antimycin A is the inhibitor of the complex 3, and the azide, cyanide and carbon dioxide is the inhibitor of the complex 4. Now let us discuss about ATP synthase inhibitor. The ATP synthase inhibitor directly inhibits the mitochondrial ATP synthase. They directly inhibit this mitochondrial ATP synthase, causing an increase in proton gradient. So no ATP is produced because electron transport stops. So the oligomycin is the inhibitor of the complex 5, the ATP synthase. So now let us talk about the uncoupling agent. So the uncoupling agents are those type of agents that increase the permeability of the membrane, that causes a decrease in proton gradient and increase in oxygen consumption. The ATP synthesis stops in the ATP synthase, but electron transport continue from the complex 1 to complex 4. So it produces lot of heat. So the electron transport, although it's continuous, but the synthesis of the ATP at the last is stopped. So the uncoupling agent is 2,4 dinitrophenol. So or the aspirin overdose also acts as the uncoupling agent. So again, I am going to revise the electron transport chain. There are mainly 5 components of the electron transport chain. The component 1, also known as the complex 1, known as the NADH COQ reductase. Complex 2 we call it succinate COQ reductase. The complex 3 is COQ cytochrome C reductase. The complex 4 is cytochrome oxidase, and the complex 5 is ATP synthase. So in the electron transport chain, the one NADH produces 2.5 ATP, whereas the one FADH2 produces 1.5 ATP. And we also talked about the electron transport inhibitor. The electron transport inhibitor are rotenine, which inhibits the complex 1. The antimycin inhibits the complex 3. The azide, cyanide and carbon dioxide inhibits the complex 4. And we also talked about the ATP synthase inhibitor oligomycin, which inhibits the complex 5 ATP synthase. And we also discuss about the uncoupling agent 2,4 dinitrophenol. And the aspirin overdose also act as the uncoupling agent. So I hope you understood this lecture on the electron transport chain, and ATP produces by ATP synthase and oxidative phosphorylation poison, that are electron transport inhibitor, ATP synthase inhibitor and uncoupling agent. So this concludes our topic on electron transport chain. Thank you.